Hello, my name is Natalie Berg, retail analyst and founder of NBK Retail. I am here today to talk you through some of the key findings of the latest global shopper study from Zebra Technologies. And to do that, I am delighted to be joined by Mark Thomson, Retail Industry Director, EMEA. So welcome, Mark, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Natalie. Good to be here.
Great. Well, Mark and I are going to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking through the report. And then I will follow up by posting some of the slides on LinkedIn. And I found the report really insightful, Mark, but also a bit surprising in some places. And so maybe if we just to kick us off, if we start off by talking about the disruption, which you rightly acknowledge in the report. In fact, you use a phrase that I absolutely love, which is the fact that we are in a perpetual state of disruption. It seems like we've gone from one crisis right into another with the pandemic, the geopolitical instability that we continue to see, and of course, consumers now facing the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. You refer to this in the report as a decisive moment in retail transformation. So let's kick off exploring that. Can you explain why this is such a decisive moment? And there's a whole plethora of external factors here, but what are the main factors that are driving these changes in influencing shopper behavior?
Well, you mentioned a number of the challenges that retail's facing, and certainly from a retailer point of view, you have labor challenges, the lack of ability to recruit the people you need for the retail business. Of course, there's the cost of living crisis, and that affects retail in both ways. The cost of everything that they're buying, including heat and lighting for their stores, their physical stores, is also increased. But also the shoppers coming into the stores are facing those challenges. Now, I'm not so sure those are sort of the big decisive moments, because hopefully, and fingers crossed for us all, those sorts of things are fairly temporary and cyclical. I think the big changes and the challenges facing retail right now is the fact that certainly the pandemic, and this is what the survey certainly bears out, acted as a catalyst for change. So the change was already happening. It was happening at a relatively steady rate. But what the pandemic did, it forced us all to think differently and to shop differently. And it forced retailers to very, very rapidly adopt and be agile, adopt some of the new practices around how do I buy from you if your stores are not open? How do I get my goods? And at the same time, can you get me them even faster? So we're now these sort of the days of 3 to 5 days for a delivery kind of feels archaic when you pop up on a website and it tells you you're going to get something in a few days time. That feels old-fashioned. So now the retailers are faced with not only scheduled deliveries, so being able to actually tell you when I'm going to get my deliveries, but next day is fairly normal, and same day is now becoming something that shoppers are actually looking for. And I'm sure you've seen on the grocery front, we're even looking within the same 20 minutes or so, and some even less. So looking to meet those challenges, I think for retailers is certainly very difficult. They have to look. Yes, there is a customer experience piece there, but there's also the cost piece. And customer experience, yes, takes priority, but it cannot take priority at the expense of the financial situation and being able to make a profit on those sorts of transactions. So retailers are having to do these things in parallel, and at the same time, as we said before, the difficulty in obtaining staff means we can't just throw people at it, plus the cost of paying staff these days. And we've seen some of the retailers in the UK in particular increase pay up to 3 times already this year, just to try and keep up with the rapid rates of inflation that we're seeing at the moment. So you can't just throw people at it. So you have to start looking at other things like technologies. And that's probably why, as part of the report, we're seeing this real willingness, even in these troubled, difficult times, to invest in new technologies.
That's really interesting, and I think it's challenging for retailers, isn't it? Because on the one hand, they've got this double whammy, right? Where consumers are feeling their own inflationary pressures, they're reining in their spending, particularly those big ticket discretionary purchases. They're looking to shop a bit smarter, make their budget stretch, but at the same time, retailers are facing unprecedented cost inflation, as you point out. So I guess how do retailers, I guess any sort of investment in technology is going to have to tick both of those boxes where you're enhancing the customer experience, still providing that kind of 21st century experience that as consumers, particularly post-pandemic, with heightened digital expectations, we've come to expect. But also if there's an opportunity to, at least in the long term, help to reduce costs, whether that's, I don't know, automation, addressing the labor challenges. So are you seeing retailers looking to invest in technology for, alternative reasons, I suppose, to address some of those challenges?
Well, I'm certainly seeing the investment in automation technology, and when we look at that, it's there's so many different types of automation technology. Obviously, the one that comes to mind for most people, they picture in their minds as soon as you say automation, it's robotics. It's that type of automation, and yes, we are seeing fully automated warehouses, fully automated fulfillment centers, micro fulfillment centers is a kind of new phenomenon that's happened over the last few years. Whereby sort of online products are picked very efficiently with automation, but we're then seeing partial automation with cobots, so robots and humans working in harmony. The robots or automated drones, if you like, whatever you want to call them, AMRs. There's all different phraseologies there. Moving products around a warehouse, and the humans doing the dexterous act of actually picking. But automation can even move into the inventory counts, because things like RFID technology, which is not a new technology, we've heard about RFID for years and years and years, and it has been used for inventory counting. But the more we use RFID, in terms of providing portals, gateways, in terms of in-sealing readers, etc. That creates an automation in the count. It also gives us more information on how products are moving around our store from back of store. Well, first of all, receiving, and then is it back of store? Is it front of store? Did it go into a fitting room? Did it go through point of sale? Did it leave the front door without being sold? So the shrink issue. So we're automating the data really when it comes to that. And then other aspects of automation even include things like electronic shelf edge labeling, which the UK has been particularly slow at adopting, because there's been no real trigger. There's been no real reason or motivation to do that. But what we're certainly seeing is any aspect which currently requires a human worker to go and do something like print a label or check the shelf edge labels or even markdowns, then can we do that with some level of automation? Because long term, if the rate of cost of labor keeps increasing, and also the difficulty to find that labor, then you have to find alternative methods, and obviously those sorts of technologies are key in that respect.
And I suppose even if you did have the labor, even if we didn't have this challenge of a labor shortage right now, you still want to free up your staff's time to focus on that more valuable and more customer facing tasks, right? And I guess the other kind of advantage here is that the whole hyper personalization opportunity, and we think about the store of the future and how you can get, incredibly personalized, incredibly tailored when you're using electronic shelf labels. And I think that's really interesting. We think about this continued convergence of physical and digital retail.
And this is where I certainly think the retailers have done a great job in terms of digital transformation, at least in some cases, and in their vision. They're starting to think much more from a consumer perspective. So it's not necessarily from a retailer, an omni-channel or multi-channel perspective. So seeing the store as one channel versus the online piece. What they're starting to do is look at the customer first, and say, what is the customer's experience of our brand? And that could be online, it could be in store, it could be a mixture, it could be going to store simply to experience the brand and then buying online, or ordering from store for home delivery, etc., or ordering online for pickup at store, or a mixture of all of those. And that's where I think your point around staff really comes in as well, because if you think about the staff piece in that particular shopper journey, then the purpose of the staff becomes almost like a clienteling, personal shopping advisor, rather than a simple operational task for staff. And I think that where we are right now is at that key point, which is what we say in the report, of transformation, where we're starting to think about staff very differently. Their job is not necessarily just to get products onto the shelves and check out people through staff checkouts. Their job is to actually manage almost the customer experience, because we all know if you have a great experience in a store, it's usually a lot down to the staff that you've met along that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just going back to your point around automation as well, I thought a really powerful statistic from the report was that it was more than 2/3 of associates were concerned that shoppers knew more about or were more connected to information than they were. And I thought that is so powerful, because we know as shoppers today, we're hyper informed. We come in with our phones, which have become our personal shopping companions. And
Yep.
so it does really bring up the whole question, is what might the role of the store associate, look like in the future?
And I think that's absolutely key. And we know that I mean, we go into more detail around the staff and their use of technology. And it's not just the fact that they recognize that customers have better access to technology currently than they do. It's also that frustrates them. So they move into the sort of behavioral side of it, the psychology. They're not happy with the fact that customers have better access to technology. And that's not surprising, because the vast majority of staff these days either fall into the Gen Z or millennial categories, millennials now being into their 40s. So they've grown up with technology. They know touchscreen technology, and the fact that they come to their store, place of work, and they're told essentially to put your phone in the locker, and now you have access to no technology unless you're going to be on a till, or if you're going to do a markdown or an inventory count. It feels very frustrating for them, because they're used to having technology 24/7 pretty much, and yet we're restricting them, and they don't want to be restricted. The millennials and Gen Z want to be freed up to be able to actually do what they really want to do, which is serve customers. So that I think, and we're from a customer point of view, in that scenario, we are seeing, and again, it came out in the report, 76% of customers say they're actually shopping more in physical stores now than they were pre-pandemic. So that really tells me that A, the store is not dead. B, that shoppers these days actually want and relish that physical store journey. And if you mix that in with the staff frustration about not having the right technology, it shows that we're at a sort of tipping point where we've got to start thinking about how does staff fit into that digital interaction piece.
Fantastic. Mark, we could be here all day. Insightful as always. Thank you so much for your time. And to our viewers, if you want to learn more about the report, as I said, I'll be posting some of the slides on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out to Mark or myself on LinkedIn. And you can also check out the report yourselves on zebra.com. Thank you.